So, Hamza, welcome. Thank you for being on the podcast today. You run an AI automation agency and you help train other people up in how to do that. How did you get started in AI? What is it that excites you about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on, letting me share my story. Honestly, I fell into AI pretty much by accident. It happened when ChatGPT first came out. Obviously, we were all super hyped about it and we had, all that interest happening. At that time, I was already running a separate agency. So I had a SaaS company. I was running a software company, selling that to local businesses here in Toronto. What ended up happening is ChatGPT came out, and a lot of my existing clientele came to me with it actually before I even found it myself, saying, "Oh, this is so cool. Have you played around with this? What is this all about?"
Hmm.
And initially, I was like, "No, I don't know anything about AI. I'm not technical. So my background is in finance and sales. That's what I studied at school. So I was not a very technical person. So I kind of brushed it off. But what I noticed was there was so much hype and demand, and people kept asking about it. Eventually, I was like, okay, let me look into this AI stuff. And then I was just on YouTube, I was watching tutorials, and I noticed that, there's a lot of applications to what I was already doing with my SaaS, with my CRM. So
Hmm.
then I was one of the first people to actually build like an integration using ChatGPT directly into a SaaS product to build a chatbot for like SMS using Twilio and building chatbots on people's websites. Of course, now that's like standard practice. Everybody has that. But back then, that was like crazy revolutionary. So I was deploying that for my clients. Things were going super well, and I just built up my base in Toronto. And then eventually I started creating content about it in the hopes of getting more B2B clients. I just wanted other businesses to see what I was building, get excited about it, and then come to me, to for my services. But
Hmm.
what ended up happening is I got regular people. I got like people who wanted to start businesses, who wanted to learn this stuff as well, contact me. That was like 99% of the messages I
Right.
was getting of people saying, "Teach me how to do this. How did you figure this out?" All of this stuff.
Hmm.
And eventually I brushed that off as well. I was like, this is not what I do. I'm trying to find more B2B clients. But what ended up happening is again, the demand was so great. And I'm very good at just listening to what the market wants. And he kind of tells me how to pivot. So
Hmm.
I pivoted into, okay, guys, you are clearly are interested in this. Let me start making tutorials. Just, let me send you to some sort of platform. So I found school.com. I was one of the first people to make an AI automation based school community. So I just dumped a lot of tutorials there. Everything was free. It was never the intention to monetize this. So I was just throwing tutorials in there, send all my traffic there. And then again, with demand, people were watching the tutorials, they were excited, they were building this stuff. And then they're like, I want more access to you. I want you to give me coaching. I want you to work with me one on one. And I was like, okay, but I can't do this with everybody. So then I started charging for coaching. And then it built up into this huge education company and platform that we have today. So yeah, to answer your question, I kind of just keep going with the flow as things come to me. I kind of figure it out. But
Hmm.
now, thankfully, we're running the agency, run the education side, the coaching company, and all of it works very well cohesively together.
That's cool. Yeah, it's funny, like, because I interview other people in the marketing space as well as AI, and for so many people, like, it's something they kind of just fell into, and it's something that kind of just life handed them and was like, okay, like this is
Yeah.
the direction you're meant to go in right now. So that's really cool that it's sort of just kind of piggybacked on what you were already doing in the SaaS space, and then,
hmm
just kind of flowed on from there. So yeah, that's really cool. So I know you sort of talked about obviously like your automation agency and the school platform where you do sort of education and stuff. How did you go with like scaling this? Like obviously building a team and like how did all of that work? And maybe what role did AI and automation play in helping you build like both of those companies?
Yeah, yeah. So I was very fortunate that when I was starting to gain traction and when I had good results and I was creating content, it was still very early. So content around AI and automation is now pretty much all we see on our algorithms. But before it was very sparse. So I was very fortunate that the stuff that I was talking about, integrations with ChatGPT's API and creating chatbots and really I was just documenting what I was already doing. It wasn't nothing was like hypothetical. I never had the demeanor of, oh, I'm the expert, you should learn from me. It was literally just a regular dude who runs an agency and saying, here's my client who's a daycare. This is what I built for him. This is the results they had before I came. This is what the impact of my AI had after. So it was all really tangible, valuable, real life stuff. And I think people really related to that. I think it was very refreshing compared to other people who kind of come on with like the flashy lifestyle of saying, this is the right way to do it. This is the best thing. So a lot of the feedback I get is like, it was very authentic and people saw themselves in me. So all of that to say, the content did very well. It was fresh, it was different. I've kind of pioneered a different style of content that a lot of people do kind of copy now, which is like a lot of my content, I'm not sure how much of it you've seen, but it's like flow charts and very education value heavy. One thing for me is like up until like maybe 7, 8 months ago, I didn't even show my own face on my content. Like it was just value first. It was just diagrams and explanations and narration on my side, which is something that a lot of people are also, a lot of people message me and they're like, it's great you've been able to do that because we're very shy or we don't want to get in front of a camera. And you've shown that there's a way to do personal branding and creating content without actually having to put yourself out there so directly. So that was my thing as well. So I was just doing pure value, talking, narrating, getting people excited about it. And then the videos did extremely well. So did like 1 million views on like my fourth video that went super viral, and the flood of DMs just kept coming in. Social media was growing. And for me, it was just like I need to figure out a way to one systemize all of this
Hmm.
because it's not easy to make content like on a consistent basis. And then two, a way to funnel all of this traffic to something. So for the funnel, I built up that school community. We built a whole website, landing pages, all of that. I spent a long time building that system. But now, like fast forward, the Instagram system, the mechanism behind everything that you guys see is like meticulous. Like we've got AI and automation basically running the entire show. So my whole funnel is we create the reels, it's showcasing some sort of content or showing some sort of automation that people are interested in. And then the call to action is always to leave a comment. So we have keyword triggers that are attached to all of the videos. So when people put the comments, and we get hundreds of comments per video, that triggers on the back end the automations we have set up. So an auto DM will go to that person, engaging with them, asking them to basically elicit some sort of response. As soon as that response comes through, all of my DMs are pretty much automated. So we have an AI agent that basically has mimicked my entire personality, my voice, and takes them through our sales process. So we have a bunch of different offers based on qualification criteria. So we look at location, age, budget, interest, ability to invest, things like that. So the agent is trained on all of these things and has the conversations with the lead, and then funnels them to the corresponding offer. So I basically got this 24/7 like sales army that's talking. I think we do thousands and thousands of conversations a week, just because of the lead volume that I have. So I've built this entire system, and it converts extremely highly, of course. Like there's no way you could have a human or a VA to replicate this level of quality. So now fast forward to today, it's like this engine that's just constantly working. But back then it was just me figuring this stuff out, DMing, answering questions. So it's a great journey. And now, of course, I can commoditize what I've built. A lot of it is my secret sauce that allows me to outcompete my competitors, but a lot of it we can also commoditize and provide as a product to other coaches and other people who run similar funnels to me as well. So that's part of our service in our agency.
That's really cool. No, I think the systemizing is super important, and especially the automations of like, yeah, I've seen a lot of that where people are like, comment AI to get my free guide, and then to have that flow through to like an automated DM system
Yeah.
is really cool. And I also checked out some of your videos on Instagram, being that more educational kind of like, it's sort of, I don't know if it's like a blackboard or it's sort of like you're drawing as you
Yeah.
go kind of thing. Yeah. Do you find you get more engagement like on, are you focusing on like Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, or are you sort of just hitting every social platform?
Yeah, so of course I try and hit every social platform, but what I've realized over time is that there's obviously different audiences on different platforms, and you have to cater to that audience. So like Instagram, for example, for me, it's fantastic for top of funnel because it has the widest reach. I just passed 100,000 followers the other day, so I have a very big net there that can provide me with a lot of top of funnel traffic. Obviously, the school community that I have has been built largely off my short form content. But the issue is that the quality of lead you would get on short form content compared to long form, there's a big discrepancy there. In short form, you're going to get people, of course, who are just scrolling casually, not, willing to invest, not taking the content super seriously. There's also not a lot of value and information you can get across in a 30-second clip with, a very quick hook. The content that I make is very engineered, and it's like a science, of course. I'm sure you know. It's like you have to capture the attention, you have to retain them, you have to hold them on for a certain KPI, and you're optimizing for, basically engagement. But the counter side of that is you're not really hooking, you're not building a relationship, they're not getting that, the connection with you there. So, even though I have a big following and a big presence and a big school community, because a lot of it was largely based on short form content, it's really just vanity metrics. It's just, it looks good, but the quality of lead maybe isn't there. It's people who sign up and then I never hear from them, or they never actually log in, or they don't engage. So that's why I don't look at those metrics too seriously. It's great. It's vanity. It looks, it helps me, with my authority and look good. But in terms of converting to actual buyers or leads or students or things like that, the quality isn't there. So then compare that to YouTube, for example. YouTube is a whole separate funnel because if somebody is sitting through a 10, 15, 20, 30-minute video or something that you've created in long form, then they're building that intimate relationship with you. They're understanding you, your content. They can easily digest it. Somebody who makes it to the end of a 30-minute video, like, and then comes to my funnels, that's worth 100 times someone who saw me for 10 seconds and then came through my
Right.
systems. So I gear my content towards the different platforms, and I understand where people are coming from, and we track that pretty closely. Where did this lead come from? Are we placing more emphasis and attention on them? There's a separate sales team for people who come through long form content versus short form. So all of this is analytics, all of this is data, and it tells you the story of how you need to run your business. And I think people think it's like a one size fits all type thing, but if you really peel it back, and with the numbers and data I have, I'm like, I'm saying it openly that you have to optimize differently for different platforms, and that's exactly what we've done.
That's cool. And I think I appreciate your honesty and openness about the vanity
Mhm.
metrics because I think it's very easy to be like, oh, they've got all these followers on social media. And then, but something I like to do is look at like, what is
Mhm.
each post getting? Because they might have a couple 100,000 followers, sometimes even a couple million, depending on it. And the engagement might be like 0.1%, if that,
Mhm.
So just because people have a lot of followers doesn't mean their content, their current content is performing
Yeah.
well. And I think like the distinction between like short form content is bringing in, like you said, top of funnel users, whereas say long form YouTube is bringing in more high quality, longer term kind of potential customers is a really important distinction. How do you kind of, because obviously like it's helpful to have the short form content to get exposure and brand recognition and obviously to get leads. How do you have a process for transitioning them from say a top of funnel lead into more of an engaged lead through say like other resources or YouTube videos or
Yeah, so fortunately for me, the school acts as a long form funnel because as soon as you get in, I've basically built out an entire free course
Mhm.
that is the way that they build a relationship with me, and it filters out all of the time wasters and the tire kickers who aren't serious. If people come into the community, they go, there's like I've intentionally put friction in there, like you have to join the community, there's a waiting period, you have to get approved, and then you can come in to watch the videos. So I know if people, survive the friction and they come through to the other side of the funnel, then they're a good buyer that I can invest time into them. That it makes sense for the salespeople to get on a call with them. But if we had it super simple where directly from my Instagram you could book a call with my team, all of our time would be wasted. We'd get unqualified leads and all of that stuff. So it's done intentionally where, there's some friction. They come to the school acts as that funnel. But then on top of that, I'll also have a direct call to action sometimes to send people from short form to YouTube directly. So that's a very popular tactic that a lot of other creators do because it's pretty well known that YouTube is like the king. If you can do well on YouTube and if someone watches your videos, you can convert them very highly. So I'm because I have a school community, it's a bit different to me. But if I didn't have a school community, all of my traffic would have been funneled from Instagram to YouTube because that's all it is. Instagram casts a wide net to find a whole bunch of people, and then from that we pick the best and send them to YouTube. Those YouTube people, if they like what they see, granted you have good content and it can actually provide value to them, they will make themselves known. So one way or the other, they're going to book a call with you, or they're going to reach out, DM you, whatever it is. So I think a big push is just getting short form to long form and not relying heavily on short form. Because if you have your call to actions directly on Instagram, or if you're booking calls directly on Instagram, given that you have the traffic that I do, I mean, if you're not doing crazy numbers and you can survive on like 5 calls a week, then that's fine. But if I opened up my doors on Instagram, my calendar would be packed till Christmas,
Right.
right? So that's intentionally how we've done it, and these are things I've learned along the way. Like I've made those mistakes. I've had an open calendar on Instagram and had that mistake. It was like I've
Put out your
wasted my
personal
entire day.
email address. Right.
Yeah, literally those mistakes, right? Because no one
Mm,
tells you these things.
right.
They're like growing pains. But yeah, so that's where we are right now.
And that's really cool. I like that system of not kind of going, oh, short form's where it's at or long form's where it's at, but using both interchangeably, I think is really cool. And then I guess in terms of, I'm just really curious, what do you enjoy most about, like, do you prefer, say, running like the automation agency? Do you prefer like the education piece? Is there something in the middle that you're doing? Like what does like
Yeah.
the perfect day look like for you in your business?
Yeah, so the unfortunate part about being in the position that I am is that obviously I'm very busy. We have about 25 people who work under me in different capacities, contractors, employees. But a lot of my day is spent in meetings or making decisions or putting out fires and stuff. So for me personally, I've lost what I loved most which was just building. Like that's how I got into this whole thing, like just being inside the automation builders, putting things together, breaking things. Like I loved all of that,
Hmm.
creating chatbots and stuff. It's been a very long time since I've tangibly actually built anything myself. So I miss out on, hey, this new tool just dropped and I get to play around with it and mess around. So for me, that was very fun when I was starting out because it was just me and a couple clients. I got to test everything out. Now it's more of that CEO boss type role where it's like you're just making decisions and stuff. So, which is great. I mean, it has its own perks, but also, it's not as fun for me if fun is a metric. But in terms of the agency, like the agency is great. Like obviously creating value for businesses, seeing the impact that we're making, that's all great. I have a great like number two head of fulfillment who manages all our developers, who deals with the clients. So I'm not that directly involved, which is fine with me because the education and coaching piece is honestly what I love a lot more. I think it's far more rewarding to have somebody message you saying, using what you've been able to teach me, I can pay my way through college, or I can
Right.
quit my job
Got my
now, and
first
I don't have
five
to do my
grand client. Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly. So I see those wins on a daily basis. I get those messages on a daily basis. I post them on my Instagram and stuff. I love sharing those things because it's great inspiration. But I don't think like that could compare like the rewarding feeling of that compared to like, oh, you increase the bottom line of a business by like, 20%. Like the agency stuff is very immaterial when like depends on your goals. But for
Mm.
me, like I get a lot of spiritual fulfillment from just helping other people. I believe in like karmic retribution and stuff. So I feel good. I feel good about doing the coaching side of it. The agency side is great for making money. So is the coaching. So after a while, I mean, money stops being your metric. Like there's no difference after you hit a certain point. If like your lifestyle isn't changing with the extra dollar that comes in, you start looking at other things to kind of fulfill you and make you happier. And I think the coaching side fulfills that need more than, additional money on the business side could.
Hmm. No, that's something that I've been playing with a lot lately is like, what if I optimized my life for enjoyment or my business and like only did things that really fulfilled me or brought me joy? And so I really like that you touched on that piece of, yeah, like this is what I enjoy, especially like you said, once money becomes kind of like a non-issue, then it's like, or even sometimes before that, it's like, oh, well, like, what am I doing this for? And what is it
Yeah.
that lights me up and what do I enjoy? And so I think that's really cool. And I hope that you get to play around in some tools soon, just for your own sake.
Yeah.
But I got two questions, but we'll start with the first one of what the first one will probably lead into the second one, but with your automation agency with businesses, just for say people listening, what is some common or easy or quick wins they can get with automations? Is it obviously, I imagine for different industries or different businesses, it's going to be more of like a custom fit solution. It might not be something that's obviously standardizable across businesses or industries, but are there any kind of common themes that you see or easy automation wins? And then part two would be, what are some of the favorite tools that you have in the AI space to
Mhm.
help achieve those outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. And we try and focus on like more bespoke, tailor type solutions for the business, just because if you start going the commoditized route and you just create products, then you're always essentially going to be competing on price. There's always somebody who can come and do the exact same thing cheaper than you. But if you're the one who's really taking the time to audit a business, understand exactly what their pain points are, finding priority number one that's keeping them up at night, that's really what a skill of an agency is from our perspective. Because anybody could say, I've got the best AI chatbot and just shove it down someone's throat that doesn't need it. But if you truly find out their operations, and you might see, okay, they're only getting 3 leads a week. Why am I telling them that they need a chatbot that's going to answer all of their,
Right.
inquiries and all of that stuff, right? So
Hmm.
if you ask the questions first, a lot of them you'll find out exactly what you need to know and what you need to sell. But to answer your question, like I like working with businesses that have an overabundance of leads, who have, money coming through the door. There's two types of businesses, those ones, and then there's the ones who are trying to get off the ground. All they need is lead gen. When you ask them what their number one problem is, they're like, I need more customers, I need more leads, I need more money. Those are not the businesses I want to work with because that's a whole marketing issue and that's a whole different agency that should be dealing with them. I like the top 20% of any industry, like if HVAC, plumbing, dentists, barbers, the top 20% of any industry, if you look on Google, they're likely doing okay. They've got a good amount of reviews, they have good business referrals. Now they need to optimize for either conversion or productivity or their back-end systems need to be improved just so they can scale, or maybe the founder, the business owners want their time back. Those are the type of businesses that I want to work with. And then that's when like the chatbots would come in place. So like one of my biggest clients, he's a mechanic here in Toronto. He came to us because he's got a problem that he just gets way too many phone calls. He's the number one tire shop in Toronto, and he gets maybe 500 phone calls a week. So that's
Wow.
way too much for him to answer. He can man the phones. He doesn't want to hire somebody to solely just answer the phone. So we built him a system that will basically answer the phone for him. If the call is missed, then automatic SMS chatbot will basically talk with the lead. What do you need? Sorry, you missed your call. And then he can go back to it at the end of the day and he can find out, exactly what that person needs versus the system he had before. Someone calls in, they don't get an answer, they move on to his competitor. He loses that business. He doesn't know why they called, who they are. And then he's got to, at the end of the day, go down his missed call list and call everybody back, and he's not going to get through. Like, there's a whole problem with that, right? And that's a problem that is going to be across so many different businesses. Anyone who has an overabundance of leads needs a missed call text back system. They need a voice AI agent. They'll need an SMS agent, right? So that is something we could commoditize and hit everybody with if they need that problem. So that's really popular. Creating some sort of receptionist just to answer, man the phones. That's great. I work a lot with coaches and Instagram influencers. So creating Instagram DM bots, anyone who has an overabundance of leads similar to myself, answering their DMs, booking appointments directly from the DMs,
Hmm.
pushing their offers, call to actions. That's a big one. Helping people with reputation management, automated Google reviews, helping them move up the rankings, automated SEO. So there's quite a lot that we can do. It really depends on what they need.
Right.
And my social media acts as almost like a catalog. So a lot of them
Hmm.
see the possibilities of things that we've built, things that we could do. And they come to me and saying, hey, I just saw this video. I'd love something similar. And then we can basically just plug and play there. So that's why I really like the way that I have it set up. And I think your second question was about like the tools that we use, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the crazy thing now is that there's such an overabundance of tools. Like every day there's a new tool that
Right.
comes out that can
It's
do something better than
overwhelming.
the two. I know that like half my job is like I've got a person who literally just scours the internet and does the research and gives us a brief on, okay, this just came out, this is what we care about. So that's a job in and of itself. But for us, there's always like fundamental tools that we feel aren't going to change. Like those are the ones that all these other tools are kind of built upon. So if
Hmm.
you can master like the foundational tools and all these other wrappers and things that are built on the back of those, they all follow the same logic. So like for example, we're very big on make.com and N8N. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically just like a platform that allows two different applications to talk to each other. So if you use a CRM like HubSpot, if you use Slack for your messaging, you use Gmail for your email, Calendly for your calendar. Make.com is going to allow all of those to talk to each other, meaning that if a booking comes in your Calendly, an automatic email will go to you to let you know, update your team on Slack, and update a contact in the CRM that they booked a meeting, right? So simple example, but basically allowing different tools to talk to each other is what these connector tools can do. So the foundation of our automations is built through that. We look at your operations, what tech are you using today? Okay, no worries, you don't have to change that. We're just going to automate what you're already doing within the systems you already have. So it's very seamless and easy project process. We've got make specialists and N8N specialists who live and breathe the software. So we can hear any problem, and in our heads we already know and can visualize the connections and how the stuff is going to be made.
It's cool.
So for us, it's super easy to get that done. And of course, staying up to date with the latest tools. So there's always something that comes out that's going to make our life a lot easier. So we want that. We invest heavily into these tools, researching what they are. Benefits of going with us versus competitors is because of the scale we have. We also have like enterprise plans with a lot of these tools. So we get preferred rates and discounted pricing and early access and features. So I'm very strategic with the partnerships that I do as well. So a lot of these tools that come out, a lot of the founders also get in touch with me because they also might need me to promote it to my communities or they just want a good relationship. So I get insider access to a lot of tools. We're a certified partner with make.com, so we have a lot of benefits with them as well. So it works really nicely within my ecosystem. And I also teach these tools as well. So of course, there's a benefit to the tools. So we have like discount codes and promotions and stuff to my community. So they benefit really heavily from that. But uh, but another big point to mention is that a lot of people, when they're learning this stuff, they kind of go tool first, where it's like they invest and learn the tool, and then they try and build a solution that the tool, might not be the best thing for, but just because they know the tool, they have to kind of hack something together. We're very tool agnostic, meaning that we will use whatever's best for the job. If what we're good at is not the best thing for it, we might find something else, or we might bring somebody else in. So our concern and the client's concern is always the outcome, never the tool or the system. They couldn't care less what you use to put this together. Can this do what you told me it's going to do? And am I getting the result I wanted? I don't care what you use to get it. So a lot of our systems are like hacked in on the back end, but front facing to the client, it's like amazing. This is exactly what I wanted. They don't know what we had to go through on the back end to actually build this and put it together. So I think that's a trap people fall into. They're like, I know this tool and this tool only. I need to find a way to make this work. But I'm like, become like a Swiss Army knife. No, have everything at your disposal. And when you're faced with a problem, you know exactly what to do and what to pick when. So a lot of my teaching is foundational based on that as well. I want people to be versatile and adaptive based on situations, not just, all in on one thing.
Right. No, I think that's a really good point. And especially about, yeah, like looking at, okay, what are we trying to automate? And obviously, like I imagine it would be like, what are the most time consuming or convoluted tasks that are easy to automate? So looking at how much time can we save staff and then going, okay, now we know this is the core process we're trying to automate. And then, okay, what would be the best tool? And instead of just jumping in and, picking the one, like you said, that you're familiar with, like going through and going, okay, like maybe doing some research, maybe looking at that, like,
Yeah.
which tool would fit this problem or this solution. And so maybe for people who are thinking, I want to learn more about these AI tools, but I don't really know where to start, like what would you recommend?
Well, of course, I mean, shameless plug. We have our communities that are specifically for that. So
Right.
my automation accelerator, which is one of the communities that I have, what we do in there is exactly what I described. The idea is that a beginner can come in as a blank slate, and they're introduced to a whole variety of different tools. Make.com, N8N, Go High Level, VAPI. We've got like voice AI tools, things like that in there. And basically, they just go through little mini modules on these different tools to acquire just the base level that they need to be comfortable in it. If they like a certain tool for whatever reason, then they can just, I give them the resources to dive a bit deeper. We have coaches on each one of these different tools. So I don't expect them to be masters of everything, but if you know a little bit of everything, then that's more than enough for you to know when to use what. So that's how I've centered that community around, where you come in, you acquire these different skills, and that together cohesively turns you into a very competent automation operator where you could walk into any business and you hear a problem and you already can visualize and know exactly what needs to be made, versus other communities and programs which are like all in and siloed on, you come in, this is what I'm going to teach you, you're going to become a master of this tool, and if you're faced with a situation that doesn't need this tool, you're screwed, or there's nothing you can do. So that's one resource, obviously, which is my community. But if
Mhm.
people just want to do the research, which they absolutely can, I mean, YouTube is how a lot of people are just teaching themselves. There doesn't have to be any restriction or paywall behind education. If you've got the tenacity and the drive to do this research yourself, then by all means, all the tutorials are there. Everything you need to know is on the internet, available for free. The only thing stopping you is the knowledge of knowing what to find, what to pick, who to trust. Trust is also a big factor as well, because a lot of people, just there's no barrier to entry. Anyone can get a camera, make a video, and then you don't know if
Right.
they're truly an expert or
Make
not.
sure that they actually know
So
what they're talking about.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So it's hard to figure that out. I try and do a big, like, I try and do a big push in my personal branding. So when people Google me or people do research on me, at least you can see like the awards that I've won, or the results I've gotten for my clients, or the associations I've had with other celebrities or influencers. So I know that people have a hard time making a choice and trusting people. So I want to make that as simple as possible by just putting everything out there. So I invest very heavily into my personal brand, which does make a difference. I think people do notice that, and that's why a lot of them choose to go with me. But to answer your question, the resources are all out there. You can obviously choose to go with mine or any others, but don't ever feel like what you need is hidden away, or there's no path to finding what you need. It is there. And also the other issue is there's a lot of overwhelm. There's so many creators, there's so many videos. I think people just need to pick a lane, find a creator you like, and just invest into them. If they are where you want to be and you trust that, they're actually telling you the truth, then just pick a creator, pick a community, and dive into their resources. A lot of people are like one foot in this community, one in that, and they're like their attention is spread across a lot of different courses and videos, and they get confused. I understand why you would do that, just because you want to kind of spread your risk. Because if this one doesn't work out, I'm okay. Maybe this one's going to work out. But that's actually a fallacy, because it's stopping you from going all in on one thing. Because the effort is going to compound. If all your focus is on one course and one community and one vision following one person, there's a magnitude of difference compared to trying a bunch of different things, half-assing them, and giving them diverted attention. So, for anyone watching that, that would be my advice to you. Pick someone you like, trust. If they have a clear roadmap and path, then invest into that and ignore everybody else, because there's a lot of people out there that everyone is fighting for your attention. That's also another key thing. When you're on social media, all we're trying to do is, as candidly to say it, is we're trying to hook you. We're trying to bring you into our ecosystems, into our funnels, into our systems, right? It's a competition between me and my competitors. So as soon as you've picked the lane that you want to go through, you need to shut everybody off, because if you're remaining open, then everyone's going to put their claws in you, and you're going to get stretched out and pulled in every direction. So that's just something to be mindful of. And as a consumer, it's very hard to know that, because it's all very tactfully done. It's all very
Yeah.
scientific.
Bright
But when you
colors,
realize
lots of things popping out.
exactly,
Yeah.
but when you see it from a creator's perspective like ours, it's like the fourth wall is broken. Like I know when someone is trying the same tactic on me that I would do on, on another
You're like,
creator.
I
So
see you.
I know it never works on me. My background is in corporate sales, and when I'm on a call and
Mm.
I can hear a pitch coming, and I know the fake urgency and the sales tactics that you, I'm like, there's no way that you can sell me. I do this for a living, right? So
Hmm.
that's just something to consider. I think the viewers should just educate themselves on how this industry really works, and just
Mm.
try not to be the product. Try not to consume, but try and be a creator always if you can. And if you are going to consume mindfully, know what you're consuming, and just stay on top of that.
Mm. No, that's really cool. Talking about, I think something we talk a lot about actually on the podcast with other guests is, thinking about like what is the goal? Like, and so for people listening, thinking about what is your goal in all of this? Like, where do you want to get to? And then I really like how you mentioned kind of picking like one influencer or one course or one kind of path, maybe looking at who, like you mentioned, who is doing what you want to do and then kind of following their path. Because there's so much noise online. There's so much content, and especially with AI and ChatGPT, there's so much stuff coming out. There's now AI influencers and videos. Like it's just kind of like mayhem. So I think
Mhm.
to really tune into like the signal, like versus the noise, and go, okay, like who do I want to follow? What is the path? Like what is my goal, and how am I actually going to get there, rather than just kind of like binge eating all of this like online content. So I think that's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah, that you mentioned that. And then in terms of like, I just want to ask this question because it kind of narrows things down. But if you had to only pick one AI tool to use, like for the rest of kind of your business or for the next 12 months, even, if you had to just pick one AI tool, what would it be and why?
Yeah, so I mean, the obvious answer would be like ChatGPT, just because of how helpful and useful it is. But ChatGPT alone, without everything else we're plugging into it, wouldn't really matter or be useful. Like I'm not gonna sit there prompting all day, but ChatGPT, for example, for me would be the brain behind like an agent I'm building. I would use it to achieve some sort of outcome. But that alone as a tool, like it's cool, but like it needs some sort of mechanism behind it.
Hmm.
One answer I'd give you is it's a tool called Go High Level. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's an all-in-one CRM, plus they've added automation and AI functionality for it. So that's a tool that was actually the SaaS software that I started with originally. So I've been using this tool for like the last 3 years. What
Hmm.
it is, it's a suite or a collection of different tools within it that solve about 80 to 90% of every problem that a small local business could need. That's really what its value proposition is. So inside of it, you'll find CRM features, but you'll find an automation builder. You can do email sequences, SMSs, reputation management. It has a website builder. So think of it as like this massive collection of just tools that you can use to achieve outcomes. That's what the back of my entire business is built off. When I was starting out, like 70 to 80% of all the automations I did were purely on this one tool. Since then, I've worked with them extremely closely. I've won a lot of awards with them specifically. So they're a massive company. There's about 60, 70,000 agencies that use this tool. So they had a summit in Dallas last year. So I'm very, entrenched in their ecosystem. So I went out, did some speaking engagements with them and stuff. So they're a really cool platform. They invest very heavily into their features, but it allows you to do things in a very simple way. You can build AI agents on it. You can build an AI receptionist directly from the platform. You can build chat widgets to put onto other people's websites. So as a beginner who doesn't want to, overwhelm themselves, learn a bunch of different things and get confused and overwhelmed, Go High Level would be the best bang for your buck in terms of the actual price, in terms of the simplicity, and
Hmm.
the roadmap is very clear. Learn these features, provide these features to a business to solve a problem that they have. Ask the business, what problems do you have? Find which tool solves those problems within the software. Your job is done. You're simply just a matchmaker and a broker building solutions. So that would be my number one pick by far,
Hmm.
any day.
Yeah, no, I think I love that you touched on the overwhelm piece because it's something that's super common, I think, for people just in general in this like time and age that we're living in, but also in the context of AI, where it's easy to be overwhelmed and there's all these different tools like we mentioned before, and obviously all this different content. And so I think, yeah, like starting, especially if you're a beginner or new to the space, starting with one tool, getting to know it, and then going and branching out from there. So I think that's really cool. And I know we're coming up on time, so we've got a few more minutes, but what is your favorite non-personal way? Sorry, what is your favorite non-business way or personal way that you like to use AI for? It could be any tool.
I actually love it for actually just learning in general,
Hmm.
ChatGPT specifically. So I'm big into history. Before, like the way to get history was like just Googling or reading Wikipedia and like reading books and stuff. But
Hmm.
I use ChatGPT a lot for just asking it questions about, where do we come from? What were like the ancient civilizations like? I was reading about the Roman Empire the other day, just asking it so many questions. And you can go as deep as you want. Like you can find one historical figure and you can get an entire breakdown of his whole life. So I'm big into learning, but I'm also like trying to do it in the most efficient manner possible. And AI allows me to do that because I don't have time to sit down there with a book or do a lot of deep research. But I'm like, if I need to know something quick, I'll just put on ChatGPT's like voice assistant, and as I'm, doing random things throughout the day, I'll just be talking to it. I'll be asking it questions, tell me about this, teach me about something I didn't know. I'll ask it to surprise me as well. I'll be like, just surprise me with a fact or tell me a topic for today and let's go deep into it. I also use it for a lot of personal reflection as well, just in my personal life. I don't know what the implications are for like the privacy and stuff, but I do
Yeah.
share,
Right.
I do share a lot with it. It's helped me through a lot of major decisions. I buy a lot of property. I've been investing a lot more. I put like financial numbers in there. Like, is this a good investment decision? Obviously, I use my brain as well, but it does a lot of the financial analysis for me. It gives me recommendations. So it's
Hmm.
really become a companion tool for just my daily life. I saw a study the other day that people who rely very heavily on ChatGPT, they did a study and like we're losing our neural pathways. And I'm conscious of that every time because I'm not making decisions anymore. I'm kind of
Right.
outsourcing my thinking, which is not great. So hopefully it doesn't like become a crutch or anything, but it is extremely useful. It is helping me a lot in terms of productivity and output. And if people aren't using it like that, it's definitely something that does help. I think if you use it just to reflect on yourself, if you're not happy with the situation you're in, of course, it's not a substitute for a therapist and whatever you're going through, like that's separately. But if you just want
Mm.
to reflect on yourself and you want to learn more about yourself, it can do that job extremely well. The better your prompting is, the more input you can give it, the better the output is going to be. Part of my community and my courses is we invest a lot into training on prompt engineering because there's a lot that goes into writing a prompt. It's not just simply,
Yes.
hey, ChatGPT, I need help with X, Y, and Z. There's
Hmm.
a whole science to that, and some of the best prompt engineers are the ones that give us the best outputs, and they're the ones building crazy things simply because they know how to speak the language of the AI best. So, if you're watching this, the number one thing that I could say as a takeaway is just invest into learning prompt engineering. Even if that's through a YouTube video, you can always get better at prompting. And this is the language of the future. This is how we're going to speak to the machines. This is how you're going to build anything. If you wanted to build a movie in the future, if you want to create a movie, it's going to be through prompting. If you want to, design an app, that's already happening. It's done through prompting. If you want to achieve anything, it'll be through prompting. How effectively can you give instructions to the AI to output what you want? So that's number one skill that anybody should be learning for the remainder of this year and beyond.
No, I'm glad you touched on that because that's something that I think people really underestimate just the value of learning prompting. And, I hear it all the time where people are like, oh, you can't get good copy out of ChatGPT or you can't get good written content. And I'm like, I really beg to differ because I have gotten amazing content out of it that people don't even know is written by ChatGPT. So I think like a lot of it has just come from refining the prompts and refining like, okay, here's what I got out of this prompt. How could I make it better next time? And even asking the AI or ChatGPT, how can I get to this point faster, or how can I prompt better with you? And really like kind of collaborating with it, almost like you said, like using it as like a tool to collaborate with or to bounce ideas off or reflect with, rather than thinking, oh, I'm just gonna type a few things and hope that I'm magically going to get this
Mhm.
amazing content. Like it doesn't really work that way, unfortunately. At least not right now,
Yeah.
but I think it's really cool in bringing that element. I like that you mentioned history, and learning about history is something I've been doing is like for self-reflection as well, but then going, okay, give me advice, like pretend you're Buddha and give me life advice, or pretend you're Jesus Christ, or pretend you're Yoda and give me life
Mhm.
advice about this problem. And it just gives a different angle to help me look at things differently. So I've been really enjoying playing around with that too. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool.
that's awesome. I
Yep.
think I think people don't realize what it's really capable of. I think people use it for very surface level stuff, but it
Yeah.
just spend some time investing into it, play around with it, even ask it what else can you do that I haven't asked you yet.
Yeah.
And that's also another key point you touched on. The output that you get is 100% determined by your input. So if you're not happy with the output that you got, you have to take accountability and be like, okay, my prompt was not good. I need
Yeah.
I need to do better because
Take
don't blame
responsibility.
ChatGPT. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
No, that's cool. I like that. Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has been a great conversation. Where can people find out more about you, your automation agency, your school platform if they want to connect?
Yeah, of course. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, I go by Hamza Automates on social platforms across Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. If you want access to any of the trainings and the material that I have, you can go to school.com/automate, which is SKOOL. I also run the automationinstitute.ai, which is our website. So you can see all of our programs, all of our details. And if you're just interested in me for whatever reason, you can go to hamzabaig.com and you can see some of the stuff that I've been up to.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening.